The Wild West, where legends were born and outlaws made their mark. You've got your Butch Cassidys, your Sundance Kids, but what if I told you there's one name that slips under the radar like a shadow in the desert? I'm talking about Etta Place, one of the most elusive and mysterious figures in the annals of Wild West history. She wasn't just any outlaw. Etta was the one who ran with the Wild Bunch and left almost no trace of who she really was. Buckle up, folks, because this is the story of the Wild West's greatest enigma. Who was Etta Place? Now, while the details of her early life are hazy at best, historians have tried to piece together what little we do know. It's believed that she was born somewhere in the East, likely in the 1870s, but that's as specific as it gets. Maybe she was a school teacher, maybe she had a wealthy upbringing, maybe she was an undercover alien. Okay, probably not that last one, but you get the idea. Her past is a giant question mark. What we do know is that by the late 1890s, Etta was living in Fort Worth, Texas, and had somehow gotten involved with the Wild Bunch. Yeah, that Wild Bunch, the same gang run by Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And speaking of the Sundance Kid, Etta wasn't just a casual acquaintance. She was his partner in crime, literally and figuratively. Life with the Wild Bunch. Now, you might be wondering, how did a mysterious woman end up running with the Wild Bunch, a gang infamous for robbing banks and trains? Great question. And surprise, no one knows the exact details. Some say she met Sundance Kid while working as a prostitute in Texas. Others suggest she may have crossed paths with him while working in a saloon. Either way, once she was in deep. Etta wasn't just arm candy hanging off Sundance's shoulder. Oh no, she was a full-fledged outlaw in her own right. In fact, it's believed she took part in at least one major heist with the Wild Bunch, a bank robbery in South America. More on that in a bit. But Etta's role in the gang wasn't just about cracking safes and dodging bullets. She also had the unique distinction of being the lady of the Wild Bunch. That's right, the only known female associate of Butch and Sundance's rough-and-tumble crew. And in a gang of tough-as-nails outlaws, that's no small feat. She was said to be just as daring and just as skilled with a gun as her male counterparts. Let's just say you wouldn't want to challenge Etta to a quick draw. But here's the twist. Despite her involvement with the Wild Bunch, there are no records of Etta Place ever being arrested. Not once. While her partners in crime were constantly being pursued by law enforcement, Etta managed to stay under the radar. I mean, how's that for outlaw street cred? The Wild Bunch on the Run, South America edition. By the early 1900s, the heat was really on for the Wild Bunch. With the law closing in on them in the US, Butch Cassidy, the Sundance Kid, and Etta Place fled to South America, Argentina to be exact. Yeah, that's right. When most outlaws were sticking to the dusty trails of the American West, these three decided to start a new chapter in the wilds of Patagonia. They settled on a ranch and tried to lay low for a while. I like to imagine them in a sitcom-style scenario where they're trying to be normal ranchers, but accidentally keep robbing trains on the weekends. Oops, did it again! But in all seriousness, things were relatively calm for a bit, until they just couldn't resist the lure of the outlaw life. It wasn't long before they were back to their old tricks, robbing banks in South America like it was the Wild West all over again. And guess who was right there with them? Yep, Etta Place. She even helped plan and execute these heists. Now, that's commitment to the outlaw cause. The Great South American Bank Robbery. So you might be thinking, okay, they fled to South America, tried their hand at ranching, but when did things get really wild? Well, let me introduce you to the heist that put Etta, Sundance, and Butch Cassidy right back in the outlaw spotlight. It was February 1905, and our trio of infamous outlaws had their eyes on a juicy target. The Banco de Tarapacá y Argentino in the small town of Rio Gallegos, Argentina. Now, Rio Gallegos wasn't exactly a booming metropolis, but this particular bank held some serious cash. And for a gang like the Wild Bunch, that was like waving a red flag in front of a bull. The plan was simple but daring. Etta, Sundance, and Butch had scoped out the bank beforehand and knew that a hefty payroll, destined for local sheep ranchers, was being delivered. Butch and Sundance, as the experienced robbers they were in charge of the stick-up. But don't think for a second that Etta was playing second fiddle in this operation. No, Etta had a crucial role to play. She was the lookout, the one who'd give the signal if things went sideways. Butch and Sundance strolled into the bank as if they were two law-abiding citizens looking to make a routine transaction. Etta? She was nearby, keeping watch, blending into the background like any ordinary woman in town. Now remember, this was 1905, and a woman casually hanging around wouldn't raise any eyebrows. Little did the locals know that ordinary woman was about to be part of a legendary bank robbery. Once inside, Butch and Sundance wasted no time. They drew their guns and, in true Wild Bunch fashion, took control of the situation with a mix of charm and intimidation. The tellers and customers were ordered to the floor as the duo raided the bank's vault. But here's where it gets interesting. This wasn't just a smash-and-grab operation. No, Butch and Sundance were professionals. They knew the layout of the bank, knew when the guards changed shifts, and, most importantly, they knew exactly where that payroll was stashed. In a matter of minutes, they had a sack full of Argentine pesos and bolivars worth around 15,000 pesos at the time, an enormous sum, equivalent to hundreds of thousands of dollars today. As for Etta, while Butch and Sundance were inside making history, she was outside ensuring their escape route was clear. And when the job was done, the three of them made their getaway on horseback, slipping out of Rio Gallegos like phantoms in the night. Now, if you're thinking, surely the law was hot on their heels, you'd be right. But here's the kicker. The authorities couldn't quite figure out who was behind the robbery. Sure, they had suspicions, and rumors were swirling that Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid were in the area, but Etta? She was the perfect wild card. No one knew who she really was, and her involvement was kept so low profile that she flew under the radar yet again. For weeks, the gang evaded capture, using their knowledge of the local terrain to their advantage. They hid out in the sparsely populated Argentine wilderness, moving from place to place, staying one step ahead of law enforcement. It was a cat-and-mouse game, with the Wild Bunch always managing to slip away just in time. What makes this robbery so infamous isn't just the sheer audacity of robbing a South American bank while being wanted in the US, but the fact that it cemented Etta Place's role as more than just Sundance Kid's companion. She was an integral part of the team, not just a tag-along. Her sharp instincts, her calm under pressure, and her ability to blend into the surroundings made her a perfect accomplice in one of the boldest heists of the era. After the Rio Gallegos heist, the trio's notoriety skyrocketed, and the authorities doubled down on their efforts to capture them. But as history would show, catching the Wild Bunch was easier said than done. And as for Etta Place? Well, once again, she vanished into the shadows, as elusive as ever, with the legend of the great South American bank robbery firmly attached to her name, the mysterious disappearance of Etta Place. Here's where things get really interesting. After a few successful heists and close encounters with the law in South America, Etta seemed to have a sudden change of heart. In 1906, she returned to the United States with the Sundance Kid, and that's the last confirmed sighting of her. After that, she quite literally disappeared from history. Some say she got tired of the outlaw life and settled down somewhere under a new name. Others speculate that she might have died in South America. There's even a theory that she returned to Argentina after Sundance and Butch's supposed deaths, living out her days in quiet anonymity. The truth? No one knows for sure. One thing's certain, Etta Place left behind one heck of a mystery. No confirmed photographs, no solid details about her life before or after her time with the Wild Bunch. just whispers and rumors that keep historians and Wild West enthusiasts guessing to this day. Legacy of Etta Place. So why does Etta Place continue to captivate the imagination? I mean, there have been countless outlaws throughout history. What makes her stand out? Well, for starters, Etta Place defied the typical outlaw girlfriend trope. She wasn't just along for the ride, she was in the thick of it, helping plan heists and evading capture like a pro. She also adds a fascinating layer of mystery to the already larger-than-life legends of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.